The sound of laughter ripped through the classroom like shattered glass. Then, snap! Sarah Grace's head jerked backward. Her vision blurred for a second. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from fear, but from rage. She didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't move. Ugh, is this real hair? Chloe Bennett snorted, holding a fistful of brown strands in her manicured fingers. Tyler Cruz laughed like it was a comedy show. Marcus Hill leaned back in his chair, eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. But Sarah just stared ahead, her hands clenched in her lap. Then she slowly stood. Her chair scraped the tile with a slow, eerie squeal. Mr. Keller looked up from his computer at the front of the room. The class froze. And Sarah's voice broke the silence. Touch me again, and next time, it'll be in court. A month earlier, Sarah had walked into Lincoln High with her hair in a low braid, eyes down, and a worn Bible tucked into her backpack. She didn't know anyone. She didn't want to know anyone. After her mom's death in April, the world just felt too loud. Her father, Pastor Jonathan Grace, moved them from Virginia to this small town in Georgia to start over. But starting over didn't mean healing overnight. Sarah became the quiet girl in every room, and in a school where attention ruled, quietness was a target. She thinks she's better than us. Why she always got that Jesus book with her? Bet she cries in the bathroom. Sarah didn't react. But she heard everything. By week 3, the bullying had turned physical. Marcus bumped into her in the hallway accidentally and didn't apologize. Chloe spat gum into her notebook. Tyler once unplugged her laptop mid-presentation. And still, Sarah didn't react. She didn't speak. But she was preparing. Every night, after dinner, Sarah sat with her dad at the kitchen table. Together, they created a timeline. She wrote down the date, time, place, what was said, who was there. Her dad showed her how to check her state's laws. Georgia was a one-party consent state, meaning she could record conversations without telling the other person. So she did. Sarah carried a tiny voice recorder in her pencil pouch and clipped a second to the underside of her desk. Days passed. Incidents stacked. Evidence built. And no one noticed. Until Thursday. Until Chloe yanked her hair. Until Sarah stood up and said assault. Mr. Keller cleared his throat. All right, that's enough. Chloe, principal's office. Marcus. Tyler. Go. Chloe scoffed. This is so dumb. Sarah picked up the small voice recorder from her desk and held it up. Her hand was steady. I'd like to come too, she said quietly. That walk down the hallway? That was the longest and bravest walk of her life. Principal Myers looked surprised when Sarah asked if they could meet privately before anything was decided. She pulled out a folder, carefully labeled and tabbed. There were printed transcripts, screenshots of messages sent by Chloe on Snapchat, even photos of small bruises from previous accidents. Then, she played the recording from that day. Chloe's voice was unmistakable. Laughter. Verbal abuse. The hair yanking. Even the silence afterward, when the whole room froze. The principal leaned back in her chair, eyes wide. I had no idea this had gone this far. Sarah looked her dead in the eye. You didn't ask. She didn't say it with anger. She said it with the quiet, firm confidence of someone who knew her worth and was done letting others define it. Officer Daniels, the school resource officer, arrived within the hour. After reviewing the materials, he nodded seriously. This meets the standards for misdemeanor battery, criminal harassment, and civil rights violation under the school safety code. We'll have to call their parents. And by the end of the day, Chloe, Marcus, and Tyler were arrested. No handcuffs in front of the school, but it was enough. Enough to send a message. Enough to shake the halls. Sarah sat alone on the bleachers the next day during lunch. For once, no one laughed. No one pointed. Some even nodded at her. Others whispered her name like she was a myth. That's the girl who shut them down. She recorded everything? She had them arrested? The following week, Lincoln High held an emergency anti-bullying assembly. Principal Myers asked Sarah if she'd speak. She almost said no. But her dad smiled gently and said, "Sarah, someone out there needs your courage." So she walked to the microphone in front of the whole school. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. "I used to believe silence was safer. That if I didn't respond, they'd stop. But they didn't. And I realized staying silent wasn't strength. Speaking truth is." She paused. "You don't have to fight with fists to win. Sometimes, your voice is enough. And if you can't speak, document. Record. Report. The law is real. And so is your pain." The challenge. Sarah's greatest battle wasn't the bullies, it was fear. The fear of not being believed. The fear of standing alone. The fear of being seen when all she wanted was to hide her broken heart after losing her mom. The resolution. With her father's strength behind her and her own intelligence, she built a case no one could ignore. Her actions didn't just protect her, they empowered others who suffered in silence. Final message. Let this be a reminder. Being quiet doesn't mean being weak. Being kind doesn't mean being soft. And when you stand up, not with fists, but with facts, you change the world around you. Sarah Grace didn't just walk into a school. She walked into history.